Okay, presentations and resolutions.
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Birding and members of the board. We do have 3 presentations scheduled this evening. Our first presentation is in honor of our outstanding school board members. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Gentry Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I've got something that I'd like to read to you all, because I think it captures what you guys do for the city of Fairfield, the township, and our community of students and staff. The Fairfield City School District joins more than 700 school districts throughout Ohio to celebrate January as School Board Recognition Month. Our school board members are citizen servants who shoulder critical responsibilities and often make difficult choices for our district. They certainly aren't in it for the money. They pay for all they do. The pay for all they do is minimal. Our members come from all walks of life and professions. Their focus is always on the future success of the children in our district. Celebrating School Board Recognition Month is one way to say thanks for all they do. We'd like to take a moment to tell our school board members, thank you for caring about our children and giving so much to our community. We want them to know that we value and appreciate their dedicated service. So when I call your name, please come down to be recognized. First up is Mr. Michael Birding.
Let's give him a hand.
Thank you.
So everyone can stare at you. Mr. Brian Beckley. Mr. Scott Clark. Mrs. Geraldine Gundrum. And last but not least, Mrs. Belina Shorter. So I'm going to get a picture of John. We're going to send this photo to the OSBA. You guys can be featured in their moment.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you very much for that. Appreciate that very much. So you want to move on to the next item, Mr. Smith?
Yes, thank you. Our second presentation will be given by Joe Markowitz, the director of the Fairfield Prevention Coalition. He's going to be speaking this evening about the positive messaging campaign. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Markowitz.
Thanks very much, and I'd like to recognize that we always show up in numbers. At the back of the room, we have Annie, who's 11th grade student, and she leads Fairfield for Change for the school students. And to her right is Emily, who's part of our Student Leadership Coalition, and she's a senior this year at the high school. So thanks for coming, ladies. We appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you.
So every year, the Youth Coalition is looking at issues that concern their peers and their classmates, and from year to year, it always changes. This year, we're concerned about the COVID-19 pandemic. We know it has a negative impact on our students. Our students are isolated and withdrawn and kind of back in the house a lot, and then they're back in school and back and forth. It's kind of, there's no real structure, and so the students are just a little bit concerned about, how do we look out for each other? Some of the statistics up on the screen, almost 9 out of 10 parents reported changes in their children's emotions and behaviors during the quarantine. And that's national statistics. We also know that, can we go to the next one? We also know that some of the quarantine effects include difficulty concentrating, boredom, irritability, restlessness, nervousness. These are all the things that make our young people anxious. So the quarantine, is not helping, and the lack of uncertainty about the future kind of impacts them. Can you go to the next slide, please? 75% of parents reported feeling stressed about the quarantine situation, and parental stress was associated with increased reports of emotional and behavioral symptoms in their children. So we're seeing a lot of people impacted by this. So the Fairfield Prevention Coalition, which really represents a large section of our community, the Fairfield community, from law enforcement to civic organizations to political positions, but a big, strong school presence and a student coalition presence. So we're here to try to figure out what we can do to help out. Next slide, please. Go the other direction. There we go. So we're looking at healthy lifestyles for our young people. We want positive youth development. We want our young people to make healthy lifestyle decisions about drugs and alcohol and other activities and behaviors. We know that they need meaningful relationships. Every one of us can tell a story about someone that we went to school with, a teacher or a homeroom teacher or a coach who really stepped up to the plate for us when we really needed them. And what do we do when we're not attending school? They also need a safe and supportive environment. Well, imagine what our families are going through the pandemic. So a lot of them are uncertain about their future and then college and everything else. And the other thing is we want to improve the social, emotional health of our young people. We don't want them anxious and nervous and wondering what's coming tomorrow. We want to make sure that they understand that we're there to support them. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. So we're going to use this prevention framework that's grounded in science. It's called the 40 Developmental Assets. Your school district has actually been using this prevention framework for years. Developmental assets are those protective factors that help youth make good decisions and have healthy lifestyles. Fairfield is an asset-building community. There are so many things going on out in the community to connect our young people to. We just need to connect the dots. So we want to do that for our students. We want to make sure that they're involved. And I don't know if you know this or not, but the #1 protective factor for preventing teen suicide is a feeling of connectedness. Now imagine the pandemic showing up, and that connectedness now starts to get a little bit gray. So we say that people who help build those relationships, teachers, bus drivers, cafeteria workers, maintenance workers, there were 2 people who saved me growing up, or else I'd be in prison. I tell you this story from prison. One was my homeroom teacher, and the other one was the maintenance man. They both looked out for me. They both knew that I came from a family of 14 that was very poor. We didn't talk about college. 2 of us went to college, and a lot of it has to do with my homeroom teacher and the maintenance man. Anyone can be an asset builder, but here's what I want to promote tonight as we just go through these last couple slides. We want a positive social norming approach, which means we shouldn't have to scare youth into not doing drugs or alcohol. It's just the right thing to do to not do that. There's a lot of science behind this. And you go to the next slide, please. So we look at things like flipping youth data. And if you could click it 2 more times. So instead of saying 26% of students have tried an illicit drug, we can say that 74% have not. It's just the way you look at the information. I want you to look at this from a young person's perspective. They don't want to be labeled that their generation is using illicit drugs and alcohol, when most of them aren't. 95% of students do not engage in binge drinking. So we shouldn't be talking about that 5% so much. So that leads us to this positive messaging campaign. billboards, posters, radio announcements, spots, newscasts, anything that can put the word out there about the good news about young people. Next slide, please. So Fairfield Schools, this is the first poster that's going up. It says, "We have hope for our future," and it talks about asset number 40 from the developmental assets, and our coalition website is there, along with the Youth Coalition logo. Next slide, please. So the students, some of them are represented in the room today, are for January and February for the kickoff for this campaign, hanging posters in their schools, making morning announcements, developing positive stickers that go home on student lunches that say things like, "We haven't forgotten about you," or "We can't wait to see you," or some kind of positive message. We're still in the process of developing those. Implementing an inspirational writing contest. And then we're gonna expand that virtual caring call system that's going on in some of the other schools, and a lot more. We have a planning session in this room tomorrow for the next leg of the campaign. Next slide, please. So here's our contact information. Again, I'll introduce myself, Joe Marquis. I'm the director of the Fairfield Coalition. I've been working with coalitions for about 33 years, and I'm a national youth trainer. I've trained over 150,000 high school students, just like the two that are in the room today. So there's our contact information. On the way out the door, we have a couple sample posters. So February, the next poster will come out, and then we're looking at other things we can do in the school to help promote the good news about young people. So I'll stop there. There's much more to say, but we have limited time on the agenda. And if there are any questions for our students, this would be a good time to ask.
Any questions from the board? I would love to hear the students come up and just say a little bit about what their plan is to help implement this program.
I agree.
Hello, my name is Emily. I'm a senior, and I'm also the communications officer for Fairfield Coalition.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. I'm Annie. I am the junior representative for Coalition. And so, yeah, this year we're really just focusing on seeing how we can spread positivity, especially in light of all these unexpected events that have happened, how we can foster a sense of togetherness and community within the student body. And we're really excited to see these goals through fruition and really see the impacts that we can have on our student body during this time. So.
Using a student-led organization allows other students to feel as if they are in this together and they are not being spoken to instead of spoken with. Allowing other students to be in charge and help them out gives a sense of that connectedness that was statistically proven to lower suicide rates. And it allows students to feel like they are making a change with us instead of us making it for them.
That's great. Anybody have any questions? Comments?
No question but comments. I just, Emily and Annie, thank you for coming tonight. Mr. Markowitz, thank you for coming. This is fantastic information. And I really love the positive flipping. That's so true. Everybody said, well, this is how many is doing it, this is how many are doing it, this is how many that are, but how about the ones that are not? And that's really, really encouraging. And I applaud you two ladies for the leadership that you are doing and that you are showing other students and bringing them up alongside of you, mentoring and coaching them as well. And Joe, I think we're really lucky to have you in Fairfield with your knowledge, your experience, and your past employment working with the youth. I'm very happy that you're here with us, and we're fortunate to have you. So thank you. Yes.
Anybody else?
Yes, I have a comment. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I try to keep in touch or just at least be aware of what's going on. With COVID, it's so important that we keep our kids motivated, keep their self-esteem high. It's such a challenge. So I'm so happy to see that you guys are living up to the challenge and demonstrating such great leadership and caring for your fellow students. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you all very much for being here tonight. Keep up the great positive attitudes.
I do have one question, Mr. Birding.
Sure.
Ladies, gentlemen, how can we help you?
We just want to get the word out, and not that you have to get it out, but you want to get it out. And there are other ways for us to engage you, the school board, as we go further through this campaign. We're just sort of pulling some things together now. Just buy into what we're doing and understand why we're doing what we're doing.
And the positive message from what I saw on Facebook, that's going to be really throughout the community. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the one thing I did not mention is, this is not just a school-wide project. We do environmental impact programs, so we're looking at the whole entire community. We're looking at billboards. We're looking at our Chamber of Commerce having flags outside their buildings with positive messages for youth. There's a whole lot more we're looking at. When someone drives through Fairfield, we want them to see the good news and hear the good news about young people all the way through the community and out the other end. That's really what we want to do, Mr. Clark.
Excellent. Yes, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda, Mr. Smith?
Yes, our next presentation is a one-to-one technology update. And I think we will, it looks like this is going to be a team effort. But at this time, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Aug.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Birding, members of the board, I do have several members of my team here tonight to share with you an update on the one-to-one journey we began last year. Like most things over the past year, COVID has had an impact on our original plan, but in this case, it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. We accelerated the rollout of devices, and our teachers have jumped in to learn many new programs and platforms in order to meet the needs of our students. So even though we've had to take a bit of a detour, we are proud to say that we have made a tremendous amount of progress on this journey. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Jeffers, our Coordinator of Data and Instructional Technology.
Good evening. Thanks for having us tonight. As you recall, last fall, we talked about a technology initiative here in Fairfield, and we had 4 road signs on our road trip to Fairfield Technology. We had hardware, instructional technology, professional learning, and support. And so myself and the members of our team are going to catch you up on where we are with those items. Technology is a tool, and we want to make sure that our students have the tools that they need to survive, to succeed. And so with the one-to-one student device ratio is our ultimate goal. And we put, next slide please, we had some phases put in place last fall that we talked about, phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. And as you can see, we were slated to be finished with the hardware portion of our plan in 2023 and 24. Well, we have significantly sped up that plan and have revised that plan. In this fall, we completed phase 1. Early fall, late fall, we completed phase 2. We are in the process of completing phase 3 right now. Devices just went out this past week for third through fifth graders. And our hope is that we will have things in place for our K-12 as early as next year, instead of 23, 24. So we have, thanks to COVID and some other things, have really sped up the process, and that's where we are with the hardware pieces. But this time I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Smith.
Good evening. My name is Kyle Smith. I'm a technology integration specialist working over at the freshman school. And my job is to basically help our teachers use the technology that now every student has in their classroom to kind of reshape the way that they deliver content and instruction in their class to make sure we're utilizing these resources. So on the screen you'll see a variety of logos and images. These are just some of the platforms and resources that our teachers are using, K-12. These are currently funded from various sources, including the curriculum department, the technology department, and in some cases even the building funds. At the high school level, Google Classroom has been used almost universally as a way to deliver instruction. It's been super important as we've gone through the COVID times and making things a lot easier. Zoom has been used in a variety of ways. I'm sure you guys have used Zoom a ton as well, to use synchronous instruction where teachers can have you can get as close to the classroom feeling as you can without actually having that classroom. So trying to make that as similar as we can. And then Screencastify is just another one that's been helpful for asynchronous instruction, to where, I know a lot of teachers were using that in this past week when we weren't able to have kids in the building, so they were able to deliver instruction that way to our students. These are just a few of the resources that have been in use, and our teachers have been doing an awesome job adjusting both their curriculum and their instruction during these turbulent times, and I really can't applaud them enough for their flexibility, and they've just done an awesome job supporting our kids this year.
Good evening. I'm Lori Wegman, Instructional Specialist for Data and Technology and Science. Our one-to-one rollout had the goal of preparing the Fairfield staff for the increased availability of hardware and software to enhance that instruction. And we had a starting line that included a broad spectrum of comfort and confidence with the technology in our staff. We had new resources that were constantly becoming available to the staff and students, so we had to look for an ever-changing landscape there. And of course, as you all know, if you use a cell phone, the current stuff that's out is constantly updating and changing their interface. So we have a landscape that is shifting all the time. But this COVID forced us to go into a just-in-time learning model through Zoom webinars and support, through the creation of tip sheets and screencast videos. Our spring and fall PD was driven by immediate need because of the remote learning environment that we found ourselves in. So we developed short ongoing surveys that were used to garner feedback from the staff about what they needed each week. And we developed a schedule of frequent professional learning opportunities for them to meet them where they were. We've seen tremendous growth in the technology confidence of our staff using this approach. We are currently developing the FCSD Personalized Professional Learning Site. This is a move towards creating learning modules in an asynchronous environment, and these modules would allow teachers to have choice in their professional learning. It will start to move us out of this survival mindset of just-in-time learning and towards a more purposeful growth mindset. This will create sustainability for our district goals in professional learning. We took all of those just-in-time resources that we created in the spring and fall and developed 2 Google sites to make these resources accessible 24/7 to our community audiences. So the first one that's on the screen right now is the FCSD Staff Tech Hub. This is a large repository of help documents and videos that the staff can access revolving around the software applications that we support, as well as many third-party applications that are free. Examples include curriculum and instructional resources, productivity tools, and professional applications. We're constantly adding things to these sites as they change. We have included a form on the footer of the site so that teachers can request items that they would like to see added on the site as they find interesting things out there. And we've also linked to all of the curriculum technology staff's websites or emails so that we can continue to give our teachers ongoing one-on-one support. Consequently, with many of our students now having district devices, we've also created a student and parent tech hub that offers many supports for them as well. And I'd like to introduce my colleague, Katie Pinnell, to tell you about that.
Hi, I'm Katie Pinnell. I'm an instructional specialist for technology, data, world languages, and music. Teachers are the first line of tech support for our students and our families. The Student Parent Tech Hub was created as a result of teacher requests to aid them in supporting our families. In addition, we have incorporated our virtual schools PLP, and the support into the site for our virtual learners and their parents. With many of our students having district devices at home, as Lori said, this site has become more important than ever. This site is ever-changing with the advent of new information, and we continue to edit and update the pages within as needed. This site is located on our Fairfield Links page. I now turn over to Ricardo Calles.
Good evening. My name is Ricardo Calles. I am a technology integration coach over at the high school, serving in the same role that Kyle Smith is serving over at the freshman school. We do have the joke that by 10 a.m. we have closed all of our ranks on our Apple Watches from walking around supporting our teacher. So the goal has been to support our staff in the use of hardware and software during the heart of instruction. And obviously COVID has changed how we deliver instruction dramatically. One of the things that we were considering last fall was the spectrum of comfort with technology. But our teachers, like Kyle said, we can't applaud them enough for how they have embraced that technology. And it is a great representation of what we do in this district. We do what's best for kids. Our staff has overcome the fear of the unknown by trying new things every single day. Using many of the tools that Kyle talked about. We had to learn those tools rather quickly to be ready to go for this school year, and they continue to use them every single day to support our students in a hybrid and remote model. And, okay, there we go. So Kyle and myself were the two new coaches that were added to the high school and the freshman school. And it has been an incredible experience to be in the building for our teachers. Our role goes from troubleshooting a small item over email as early as 6 a.m. in the morning, and as late as you can imagine. It also goes into us helping teachers use a tool in the classroom, meeting with them, coaching them, modeling a new tool for them. And also what's incredible is that we get to go into their classrooms, give them feedback, and even co-teach lessons with them. The modeling portion and actually going into classrooms helps model for students what learning is like, because we can all learn from one another. And it also allows teachers to become a student in their own classrooms, which has been so incredible as we get to teach both students and teachers at the same time. Like I said, it also extends outside the school day, as we're available for teachers outside of our workday, because we understand that teachers often use evenings and weekends to prepare and learn. It's been a year of new learning for all of us, but we often hear feedback from our teachers about how our department and our team has equipped them to make their lives easier. Our reach extended beyond just the high school and freshmen, as you have seen that we have added devices to the middle schools and elementary schools, so we've had opportunities to go over to the middle schools, help those teachers and elementary teachers, meet with them and provide as much support that we can, while at the same time carrying our load of the 9th through 12th grade levels. And Lori and Katie have been an incredible help in that, and we're so excited to add 2 more coaches to our team next year, which will allow us to support even more teachers at the middle schools, and obviously students as well. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Jeffers.
Thank you. And we are, as Rico stated, very excited to add 2 new members to our team next year to support the middle schools. We weren't anticipating being ready for that, but they got devices this year, and so we are excited to be able to support those teachers with staff members in their building next year. We would be remiss if we didn't mention our wonderful tech department. They're back there in the back corner. With the addition of over 7,500 student laptops this year alone, they have just really knocked it out of the park and have really worked hard and have really done a lot of behind-the-scenes work that many folks don't understand needs to occur with imaging machines and repairing machines and all of those things that go along with that. So I want to thank them publicly for their hard work in that area, and know that at some time down the road, we're going to have more devices than we have people to support them. So we just put a little slide in here that need may come down the road. And then as we continue to think about our virtual learners, another possible need down the road might be support for them after school hours, because a lot of them are working outside of the school day. So that wraps up our update for our 4 areas for our technology plan. And at this time, if you have any questions, I'm sure one of us will be happy to answer them for you. And of course, feel free to reach out to us anytime if you have questions.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I do have a question. It wasn't directly covered with your presentation, but it's something I've been wondering about. Do you have any numbers on our hotspot usage for those kids that don't have access to wireless? Do we know how effective that is, how much is being utilized? Do we track that usage in any way?
You mean the district-owned hotspots that are
Yes.
being used by students?
Yes.
Mr. McKinney would have to answer that. I'm not aware.
We have a number of them available.
Mm-hmm.
And as the principals see a need for the students that need them, and they contact us and we give them to them. I would say right now, I may have 40 of them, 40 or so that have been requested.
Only 40, okay. I thought it would have been higher. Was that a number, 40, was that beneath the expectations or below the expectations you
I
had?
expected it to be higher, and we've got devices that if there's a need out there ready for those students, but right now we're roughly 40.
And is that primarily at the high school or freshman school? How was that distributed? Do you know the,
There's some at the elementaries, I know I've had probably, if I would think that, I would say 8 or 9 at the elementaries, and the remainder is the upper 6 through 12.
okay, thank you.
And I think oftentimes, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. McKinney, but a lot of those are being requested by students who are quarantined. Because when they are able to come to the school, their device has access, network access, and they're able to do things they need to do at school. And then when they do things at home, when they bring their device back within our network, it syncs everything back up and it catches everything up for them so that they can still continue to work at home even if they don't have network access. Does that make sense?
It does. I was just wondering about things like Google Classroom, where they have to actually go in and download assignments. I was wondering how, that's working. I anticipated the number being a lot higher, and I was concerned about whether or not those kids were being able to access it, not just through quarantines, but it sounds like it's working.
That's also for an entire family, so sometimes you may have 3 siblings or 4 siblings all in the same household.
Okay.
Using one hotspot covers the entire house.
Okay.
And I'll just interject quickly. So some of the grant monies that we received, the federal grant monies, broadband connectivity grant in particular, is paying for those hotspots that we have for the students. So we are utilizing funds for that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I had a question. I think you've done a tremendous job rolling this out, getting their hands this year, and then pushing it down into the lower grades. And, the maintenance, the upkeep, the comfort level for both the instructors as well as the students, all these things have to be monitored. Have we started the process of maybe evaluating, surveying, doing anything like that to really make sure that what we're rolling out, the different models that Mr. Smith spoke about are working and effective for our students? That we're not having, formatting issues on Google Documents or whatever it may be, that someone's trying to keep track of that in this, as quick as it's happening, I guess.
Right. We are in survival mode.
Yeah, right.
And
I appreciate
we're
that.
trying to get these devices in the hands of the folks who need them. And our teachers are also in survival mode, trying to learn the new applications that are now available to them that they didn't have when students didn't have devices necessarily. But we do have surveys that we send out to our staff, asking them for things that they need clarification on or more training on. And we send those out generally, I think, once a month or so for them to respond to us, and then we try to do that. But then again, as Mrs. Wegman stated, there is a form on the Staff Tech Hub that they can click and ask us for help just in time as well. And Rico and Kyle have been great at swooping into a classroom and helping a teacher in the moment as well. So we are in the process of putting together, as Mrs. Wegman stated, a more module-based professional development for teachers to be able to do on their own as they have more time to learn the applications that are available. But they're changing so fast. I mean, we just can't keep up with how fast the applications change. As soon as we get it figured out, we get an email from a teacher that says, you know, this looks different, and we log in, and sure enough, it's different. So that's kind of where we're living right now.
So if the teachers are living there, then the students are living there too, right?
Yeah, you would think.
It's a challenge.
You would think, but they are so much better at it than us. There's no easy way to say that,
right.
but they are. They live it, they love it. But the younger kids, you're right, the younger kids need to be taught, the appropriate ways to use things and how to be a good digital citizen. And we have a technology special that they go through starting in first grade, where they're learning those digital citizenships and how to use a mouse and how to use a keyboard and those types of things all the way up through 5th grade. So we started that 3 years ago, and so that continues as well.
Any other questions, comments?
And, question, you may have answered it with Mrs. Wigman. The hotspots, how is that, for lack of better words, marketed in the schools to the families? Is it on that, I think you mentioned there's a tab or something, but do the families know about it, and how do they find out about it?
Generally, the ones who have a need will ask,
Okay.
but I don't think we have.
I'm just wondering if families even know to ask.
Yes,
They do?
well, I can't tell you that for sure, but they do ask when they need. And when teachers notice that a student isn't participating digitally, then teachers begin to ask
Okay.
why you're not, and if the students.
And they're proactive with the family.
don't
And
have
that's okay.
access, then.
All right, good.
Then they pass that on.
Okay. And lastly, just a comment. I just applaud all of you for what you do. You're right. It's like a fire hose with the information coming out. That stuff to me is like a car. I want to get in it, turn it on, drive it. And I know you guys work tirelessly, hours and hours doing what you're doing. So thank you for that. And I'm in the finance business, and everybody jokes with, oh, you got banking hours. That's not a real thing anymore. And it's definitely not with you either. I mean, I know you're up early, working late, weekends and everything, and the teachers as well. So thank you very much for doing what you're doing so quickly and rolling it out to adapt to these weird, crazy times. So thank you all very, very much.
Yes, and we thank the board for your support. I mean, we really sped things up, as you can see. And so we're excited to be able to partner with you to get that done for our students. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent.
Any questions or comments? All right, thank you very much.